Welcome. I am Chris, and I'm the pastor of a small congregation in rural Iowa. I'm a leadership coach, but most importantly, I am a follower of Jesus. And this is a video series intended for those who want to know more about Jesus, more about the Bible. But maybe you're just a little bit lost. Maybe you've never been to church at all, and you walk in and you have no idea about what they're talking about. Maybe you vaguely remember childhood stories from Sunday school or vacation Bible school, but you really don't know how they fit in. This series is for you then. It is not any deep theological perspective on things. It is simply for you to understand some basics of the Bible as I know it. So come along for the ride. This is episode 2. Last time we talked about the big picture, the Bible as a library, 66 books, one love story running through all of it. Today, I want to help you understand the two major sections of that library, the Old Testament and the New Testament. And I'd like to start by telling you what those words actually mean, because testament is not really a word that we use much anymore, is it? A testament is a covenant, an agreement, a promise. So the Old Testament is the old promise, and the New Testament is the new promise. And together, they are the story of how God kept both promises. The Old Testament is the longer section. It's actually 39 books. This is Old Testament out of the 66. It begins at the beginning, the creation of the world, the first people, the first choices, the first mistakes. And then it follows one particular family, a man named Abraham and his descendants, as they grow into a whole nation of people called Israelites. You might also hear them called Hebrews or the Jewish people. It's the same group with different names at different points in history. That's confusing, right? God makes a promise to this people. I will be your God and you will be my people. That's the Old Covenant. That's the Old Testament. And then the Old Testament tells us what happened. The great stories, the long wanderings, the kings, the prophets, the victories and the failures, the moments of faithfulness and moments of not being so faithful, moments of falling apart. And here's the honest truth about the Old Testament. Parts of it are beautiful and really easy to read and to love. The Psalms, the story of Ruth, one of my favorites, the book of Proverbs, and parts of it are hard, violent, confusing, sometimes really hard to understand, and that's okay. As we go through this series, we're going to take it slowly. We're going to take the stories one at a time. And along the way, you're going to see that same thread I talked about last time, God's love and God's refusal to give up, is there through it all. Here's something a lot of people don't know. There is a gap between the Old Testament and the New Testament. There are about 400 years between the end of the Old and the beginning of the New, when Scripture essentially goes silent. No new writings, no new prophets. And then a baby is born in a stable in Bethlehem, and everything changes. The New Testament is made up of 27 books. It includes 4 accounts of Jesus' life, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and we call these the Gospels. Gospel means good news. And these 4 accounts each come from slightly different perspectives. They tell the story of who Jesus was, what Jesus taught, what Jesus did, how Jesus died, and what happened 3 days later. After the Gospels, there's a book called Acts, the story of what the early church did after Jesus rose from the dead and returned to heaven. And then there are letters written by leaders like Paul and Peter and John to the early Christians who were scattered across the ancient world. And the New Testament ends with a mysterious, visionary book called Revelation. It really is a book about hope and about how the story ultimately ends. Now, here's something that I love. Christians believe the Old Testament and the New Testament are not 2 separate stories. They're one story, essentially in 2 acts. The Old Testament asks the question, how is God going to fix what is broken in this world? And the New Testament answers it. This is how. Every promise in the Old Testament points forward. Every prophecy leans towards something that's coming. And as Christians, we believe that something, that someone, is Jesus. So, as you start to read the Bible, or as we walk through it together in this series, you'll start to notice that things in the Old Testament echo forward into the New Testament. Little hints, little threads. It's one of the really remarkable things about this book. Across 1,500 years and 40 writers, it holds together. So here's your question to think about today. Is there a story from the Bible, one you maybe heard as a child or in a movie or somewhere along the way, that you've always been curious about? I would love to know what it is. Because we're going to get there on this journey of ours. Every one of those stories has something to show us. This is going to be a fun ride together. Stick with me and I'll see you down the road.